Last day we ended our discussion with an example of this single layer perceptron learning algorithm, and we have seen as an example that in case of and or function, due to the points in the graph, there it's possible to draw a straight line. So it's possible to design a single layer perceptron. It's possible to actually teach a single layer perceptron that can identify, segregate the uh, points of these two functions. But in case of XOR function, we have seen that due to complementary nature of the points, it is not possible to draw a straight line. So there is the points are not linearly separable, and that's why we have came to a uh, uh, comment that the singular perceptron cannot classify a nonlinear separable patterns. So how to deal with this problem? We have to do this. We have actually seen Covers theorem, right? So let's go through the Covers theorem in a very brief way. What actually Covers theorem say again? Let's say that a complex pattern classification problem cast in a high dimensional space non-linearly is more likely to be linearly separable than in a low dimensional space, provided the space is not densely populated. So we have some mathematical background over here regarding Covers theorem, but for this class at least, let's just in a nutshell, let's try to understand this. This Covers theorem actually say that if a set of points is not linearly separable in a lower dimensional space, or that lower dimension may be dimension value, number of dimension can be n. Okay, so then that set of points can be linearly separable if we are able to, you know, if we are able to map those set of points from some lower dimensional space to some higher dimensional space. That actually the Covers theorem says. And pictorially it looks something like this, that initially the input space in the left side that you can see, the blue and the red dots, which are not linearly separable, some non-linear lines is there, but that's why a single layer perceptron cannot correctly segregate these two set of points. Now to make a to make a proper straight line, somehow we have to actually convert the position of the points with respect to the space. And how we can do that? We can map the smaller dimensional space to higher dimensional space. So although we have only x and y axis in this particular image, because in a two-dimensional plane, it is not possible to show any higher dimensional cases. You just assume that in the input space we have smaller dimension, and in the output space we have a higher dimension, and that is what we call feature space. So that means a particular point which was initially defined by say 4 features, and if I have many more points like that, and if we see that those set of points are not linearly separable, what we are doing, we are mapping the say all the points of the from 4 features to say for example 10 features. Now from where these other 6 features are coming? It is not some different features that we are collecting again. It's something like a mathematical mapping, of the 4 different values to 10 different values. And now question is that how we can do this? How we can do this mathematical mapping? This mathematical mapping actually is done with what we call multi-layered perceptron. Now why it is called multi-layered? The reason is that you see in the previous case we have seen that we have an input layer neuron and an output layer neuron. No, nobody is in between them. But in case of multi-layered perceptron, we may have many layers in between input and output layers, and those are actually what we call hidden layers. Because from the, if we consider this, the whole thing is a black box, the whole thing is the black box. In this black box, everybody who is actually in the outside, who can see this inner in the input layer, it can, because it has to give input to this input layer, that anybody can see this output layer, because from the output layer we will get the output, but nobody can see the layer in between this, and this part is, it's going to be very vital. The reason is that this is the way by which actually what we will do, that we have seen in Covers theorem, that we will try to map from a lower dimensional space to a higher dimensional space, so that at the end we find a nonlinear problem becomes a linear problem. Okay. Now now obviously I don't know what is the definition of the function for the mapping of lower dimension to higher dimension. So that means we have to learn the function also. Just like we have seen that if we have the neural network is, if we consider as a black box, there obviously you must have some relation between the input and output, and that relation we don't know. That function definition I don't know. That function definition actually we realize in a form of training. The same thing will happen over here, that from the lower dimensional space to higher dimensional, to convert a point from lower dimensional space to higher dimensional space, what will be the definition of the function I don't know, but that function can be realized in a form of training the multi-layered perceptron. But training the teaching, the multi-layered perceptron is not a very simple job that we have seen in a single layer perceptron. Teaching is, what does teaching mean? Teaching means actually optimizing the free parameters of the multi-layered perceptron. If I say it in a more specific way, what I should say? Optimizing the synaptic weights between each and every neurons of one layer to another layer, right? So now what problem we will face in case of multi-layer perceptron? So the idea of a multi-layer perceptron is something like this, that we have an input over here, that we can give input x1 x2 to xn, and what is this? This is actually a feature 1, feature 2, till feature n of a particular object. Like if we consider that we are working on some some population of a country. So in this situation, every sample is nothing but a human being. So what will be the feature of the human being? That can be, say, hair color, maybe complexion, maybe their language, maybe their height, and many more. So those are actually all x's, x1, x2, x3 in this way. So these are the features. We'll give the input over here. Fine. And these input neurons are connected with some neurons, and you see pictorially what I want to show you is that the number of neuron in this hidden layer 1 is much higher than the number of neuron in the input layer. And why it is doing? Because we are assuming that our problem is nonlinear, and we are trying to map the smaller dimensional space to higher dimensional space, so that at the end, when I will come to the output layer, from the output layer perspective, the problem become a linear problem, so that it is possible to draw a straight line on that case. With that, with respect to that higher dimensional space. Now you see, there is no guarantee that how many hidden layers will be there. You may have only one hidden layer, or maybe two, or maybe three, but generally more than two hidden layer we don't use, because in that case the another problem may occur, that is what we call uh, uh, vanishing gradient problem or exploit gradient problem. So that problems we will discuss in another video. Okay, so now anyway, so whatever the input you have given, I mean our input layer is getting, is actually transferred to the hidden layer 1, then from hidden layer 1 it transferred to hidden layer 2, then from hidden layer 2 it is getting it, I mean out in the output layer. Fine. So this output layer will give some output y1, y2 till ym. You know what you see, just try to watch this carefully. It's m and it is n. What does it mean? It means that the number of input and a number of input feature and the number of output feature may not be same. There is no guarantee that always the number of input feature and number of output feature will same. Anyway, so now question is that we all know that the multi-layered perceptron or the neural network problems actually deal with supervised learning. So if it is a supervised learning, that means for each and every output feature we have a desired value that we know. Depends on that actually we are teaching the multi-layered perceptron. So that means the output in the output can be compared with this desired output, and the difference between these basically the error. So that means in this way we can easily find out the error in each and every output features, and according to that we can easily say that okay, we can have a gradient descent, a gradient descent algorithm that just we have seen in the last lecture to, and we can easily change the weights. But applying gradient descent is not going to be so easy that we have seen in case of single layer perceptron. The reason is that gradient descent works depends on the error. So, and it's sure that until you are getting the output, it is not possible to compute the error. Now, all these weights actually, the error actually depends upon because of these weights, right? So basically in case of a gradient descent, we try to optimize del E del W, where W is the synaptic weight between the previous layer and the current layer neuron. So I can say that this set of neurons, that is this set of synaptic weights between the hidden layer 2 and output layer is directly responsible for the error. That means using gradient descent you can compute up to one layer. Fine. So you can calculate del E del W, where W is actually synaptic weight between hidden layer 2 and output layer. But what about hidden layer 1 and hidden layer 2? I mean, what about the synaptic weights of weights between hidden layer 1 and hidden layer 2? Yes, this set of weights are responsible for this error also. Yes, but problem is that this error can be computed only in the output layer, not in the hidden layer 2, so that you can directly calculate the error, I mean del E del W, for the synaptic weights between hidden layer 1 and hidden layer 2. You cannot do that. That means somehow we have to propagate this error in some form, in some mathematical form, till the end of this, till the beginning of this neuron, of the multi-layer perceptron, so that each and every synaptic weight in between each and every layer can be optimized. So from this concept actually, the algorithm that we basically use for learning a multi-layered perceptron is called back propagation algorithm. Don't mix up between this backpropagation and gradient descent. Backpropagation is a gradient descent algorithm, is one form of gradient descent algorithm, but it is more higher version of gradient descent algorithm, that I must say. So we have to understand how this backpropagation algorithm actually works. But that means we must have the proper derivation of this so that you can understand. But before that, before we continue this backpropagation algorithm, you should this points in your mind, so you can write in your copy, so that because these values will be used in future, throughout the derivation of the backpropagation algorithm. This I, j, k, n, l, m all will be used. Okay, so you can write on your copy if you have a copy with you. You can write what does I, j, k mean, so that you can memorize, you can remember, or so that you will be able to understand what's actually the meaning of that mathematical formula. Now let's just I'm just telling it what actually is, that I, j, k are actually all regarding indexes. Okay, indexes of the neuron in an input, hidden and output layer, I mean respectively. Okay, in the same way, as we know, as we have seen, that number of neurons in a particular layer, it's not, they are not functionally related. It can be anything. So that's why we have taken three different variable, considering the number of neuron in the input layer and number of neuron in hidden layer as well as in output layer. Okay, and this is the a close view of a neuron, you see. So what we can see over here, this blue one, what we have within this blue circle, within this blue circle we have a something like this. Actually we know this is the Macaulay-Pitts model, right? That we have a summer that actually taking this particular arrows are nothing but actually the synaptic weights from the other neurons, right? And it has some weight, some W is there. I have not written that W here. So these arrows are actually connected from the previous layer neurons, and with respect to this W and their values, it will be, I mean WIXI, it's something like WIXI plus bias obviously will be added, and then that value V will enter within the what we call activation function, right? This activation function will give some output Y. So these variables V, Y, these are actually we will use in the process of derivation. We will keep this same. V is the summation output and Y is the some neuron output. Okay. So now let's start this backpropagation algorithm here. So we will start from obviously from the output layer, because so this particular view in the right side is nothing but a very close view of a particular neuron in the output layer unit. You see, we have situation something like this over here, right? So we had this, this one, and its output is, difference of the output of y1 and t1 is e1. So in the same way we have drawn this one, so it's something yk, because this k is representing the index of the neuron in the output unit, right? So that's why this k I have written in a general form, it is k. It can be 1, it can be 2, it depends upon, so we will try to realize it from a general point of view so that we can understand it. So anyway, we have to so now see, by mistake here, this k is actually should be in the suffix somewhere here. Okay, similarly this j will be somewhere here. Okay, j and k will be in a suffix. So anyway, so now you see, let's try to use this one. Okay, so that means you see, this is one neuron only. So we will start, as we know that we will start from the error. And what is the error? Error is actually a sum square error, right? So a combination of all the errors, right? Because you know the all these weights are uh, actually create generating these errors, not only u1 but also all the error. So that's why we will start from error e is equal to half summation over k equal to 1 to m, and you know what k is and m is. M is the number of neuron in the output layer, that was m. So that's why k equal to 1 to m, and dk minus yk whole square. So one thing is sure, it is a sum square error, right? Now question is that why I have taken this half. You will realize it very soon. Okay, so that I mean the reason of this half. So that means it's something like, you can say half k, I mean summation over k equal to 1 to m ek whole square. Ek is nothing but dk minus yk. Fine. And in the same way, what is vk? I mean this part. What is vk? You see, this vk is actually the neuron output of the previous layer neurons into the synaptic weight. Summation of all this different cases is nothing but Vk, and that's why what I have written, you see, j equal to 1 to L Wkj into Yj. So what Wkj means? Wkj means the specific synaptic weight between the kth layer, I mean between, I'm sorry, the specific set of synaptic weights between the kth neuron of one layer with the jth neuron of the previous layer. Now since here k is representing the neuron of the output layer and j representing neuron of the hidden layer according to my slide, that's why you can easily understand that this wkj is basically representing the synaptic weights between the hidden layer and output layer. That's all, right? So according to that, you see, I have written this one. It is wk1 because it is coming from the first neuron output of the hidden layer, and this is wk2 because this is coming from the second output of the neuron of the hidden layer, and k remains same because we are considering this is a kth neuron of the output layer, right? In this way we have many k's, and according to that the different synaptic weight will generate. That I hope you can understand very easily. Now what is yk? This yk is a function of this vk, and this phi actually represents in my derivation here we are considering that we have used sigmoid activation function. So that means basically what we have to find out, we have to find out what is del E del WKJ, because the change of the weight, that means del W, I mean delta W basically depends upon this del E del W, right? That's why we have to find out this del E del W kj. Now del W kj means k1 or maybe k2 or maybe kl, anything, any k for any j equal to 1 to L. Now you see this error E is not directly connected with del WKJ. If you want to differentiate this particular expression with respect to del WKJ, it will be is going to be very difficult, and that's why what we do, we take a very interesting um, form of differentiation, that is interesting rule of differentiation, that is what we call chain rule of differentiation. And that's actually, we can say that this error is actually directly connected with the small e, right? Small e, because all, I mean summation of all the small errors actually generate the actual error e, capital E. So that's why I can say that del E del ek I can easily find out. Fine. Now you see this error ek is responsible for this output yk, because this dk is constant. That means this ek can be a function of yk, I can say. So that means I can easily find out this del e del yk. Similarly, del yk, I mean, and we can also say that this del dyk, I can say that it's a function of yk is a function of vk due to this activation function. That's why it's easy to find out dyk by dvk, and this dvk I can easily find out through this dwjk, because we see that in this expression vk equal to j12l wkj into the yj, this vk is the function of this wkj. So dvk dwkj I can easily find out. So if we just write this chain rule of differentiation and individually find out these expressions, I can easily find out what does del E del W Kj mean. So let's find out one by one. Now see, del E del W del E del Ek. What is this? This one, right? Del E del Ek. You see, since you are actually considering only a kth output, you are not considering all the output of the I mean all the neuron of the output layer. That means if you just differentiate with that kth error, that means all the error will get nullified, because all the error are not dependent on the kth error, kth. So that means what will happen, this dk will be ek. Why? Because this ek will become 2 into ek, this 2 will come, and that will get multiplied with half, will become nullified. And you see, now I hope you can understand why I have kept this half. This is just for a mathematical, to keep our mathematical computation simpler. It is not, I mean, it is not actually contributing much more. Okay. So del E del K is become EK. Fine. Now what about del EK del YK? You see, del EK del YK. You see, uh, here the expression can be this one. This is my EK, right? I mean, I have not written this one. Actually, let's do it. Let's write it. So actually, EK is DK minus YK, right? So naturally, if you differentiate this one with respect to YK, this one will get nullified 0, because this is constant, minus dyk of yk means 1, right? So this is minus 1. That's why I have written dek dyk as minus 1. Fine, I hope you can understand. Now you see, the next one is that dyk dvk. What is this? You see, yk is vk. Yk is a function of this vk, and this is what? This is the sigmoid function. Now if you are able to remember my previous lecture, I have shown you that this sigmoid function has a very interesting characteristic, is that the differentiation of this sigmoid function is actually the function into 1 minus the function, right? Function is, so I can say that this dyk dvk is nothing but phi vk into 1 minus phi vk. So this expression we have seen in my previous lecture video, that we have seen. And you see, you can easily find out this one, because if you just if you just sum it and apply the function over there, you can easily find out y. So it's not possible, it's not very difficult to find what does it mean. And then dvk del w kj. You see, del vk del w kj means what? It means that you are differentiating it by del w kj. So whatever, I mean, for a particular j, for example, if I consider that del vk, let's take an example. Let's say I'm writing del v1, okay, where k equal to 1, and del W say kj, so it is 1 2. What does it mean? I am trying to calculate del output of, I mean, the summation value of first output, the summation value of the first in the first neuron neuron of the output layer with respect to the synaptic weight between the that first neuron of the output layer and the second neuron of the hidden layer, something like this, right? So now what does it mean? Now what this dv1 means? This dv1 means that summation means w, say 1 1 into, say y1 plus w1 2 into what will happen? It will be y2, right, plus plus w1k into yk, something like this, right? This is the vk means, and you are actually trying to find differentiation of this dw12. So with respect to w12, this will get vanished, will be 0, this will be 0, because this w1 and w1k are constant with respect to w12. Only this will left, and we will get what? We will get only y2 as our output, right? So that means, you see, we will get yj. Here I am writing y2 because we consider that this is my j and this is the k, right? So that's why we have written that dvk of dwkj is yj. Now you see, you have individually found the different expression of these four components of this chain rule, right? Now that means I can easily find out what this dwkj means. It will be something, I mean, okay, it become little bit clumsy, so it is all this, okay. So that means it becomes something like this, right? What we have got from, if we multiply these four different expression, we will get this one. So this is, you just one thing you just keep in mind. So dwkj is something like this. Now let's go for the next one. What is, so what we have seen, we know that this delta wkj means what? The change of the wkj is obviously in, I mean, proportional to the I mean, the slope, and slope is actually that is difference, right? The slope of this error with respect to del wkj. So this uh, particular proportion actually we can mathematically write in this form. And what does it mean? This minus eta means what? What is this eta? This is the learning rate that we have just discussed last day. We have seen in case of gradient descent also. And why it is minus? Because if you are able to remember the curve of the error in my previous lecture, there you have seen basically we are going downward with respect to this gradient of the error, right? And that's why it is basically minus. So that means if you just just multiply the expression of del E del W Kj that we have just found from the next slide, I will get delta W Kj is something like this. Fine. So the change of a synaptic weight between the kth output output neuron with and between jth hidden neuron we have found, right? And then one more observation you require, that is derivative of the error with respect to the output layer. And suppose this derivative of the error we are considering as delta k. Delta k means what? Derivative of the error with respect to kth output output unit, output neuron unit. Okay. That is the delta k. And what you can write? You can write it is actually equal to minus delta of, I mean, derivative of error with respect to this Vk, because Vk is the responsible for this error. Fine. And this one actually is not possible to compute directly. So what you can do, you can again apply the chain rule. And you know, you can write that dek where you multiplied by dek dyk, which is multiplied by dyk dvk. Now with these three part we have already found from this previous video and previous slide. So if you just multiply this, we will get this one. So that means this delta k is, that means the derivative of the error with respect to output layer is this part, right? Now if you just, you see, if you compare this expression with this one, you see we have a common, that is ek into phi k into 1 minus phi k is common over here, this part, right? So if you just play, I mean, you can do one thing, you just compute this del k individually, then you place over there. So it will become something like this. My del wkj become little bit easier to realize. That just what we had, the same expression I have written in a little bit different way. What we have done, we have actually computed del k separately, and that we have written over here, so that as a whole the expression become little bit lesser complex. So you just remember this delta wkj in your mind, or maybe you can write on your copy this part, so that actually you can relate from the, you know, relate with the next next part of the derivation. Okay, now so we have found this one. That means basically with respect to this diagram, if you say, you see, we have basically found what is the change of the weight I require for this synaptic weights between this one. Okay, now assume that I have only one hidden layer. Okay, only one hidden layer, because just for it's a derivation purpose, that's why I have considered I have one input layer, one hidden layer, one output layer, that's all. Okay, so we have found this part, this entire, the change that I require in this part, but this part is left. By the way, forget about these two hidden layers, that's why we are not, we will not discuss about this part. Okay, so that means this part is left. The input to hidden, the synaptic weight changes between input layer to hidden layer is still left. So let's see. Now you see, it's going, this part is going to be very vital, that we are trying to compute now the derivative of the hidden layer, but it's not going to be very easy. The reason is that, as I told you, that this hidden layer doesn't have any desired output, so that you will compute an error, and depends on that you will change the weight between the input layer and hidden layer. It's not possible directly. So what I have to do, we have to back propagate the errors that we found in the output layer to the layer, to the hidden layer output, something like that. And that's why the backpropagation name came. So this particular view, this particular neuron is nothing but an enlarged view of the this hidden layer neuron. Okay, this is the, you see, that's why the input layer is given as x, output is given as yj, which is going to be connect with one of the, so if in this side if you draw a neuron, it will be an output neuron. I hope you can realize, try to visualize this scenery in your mind. So I mean, unless it will be pretty difficult to realize what actually is going on. Okay, in the same way that we have seen in case of previous situation, here also we have the synaptic weights, but here the synaptic weight will represent wji, because now we are considering the synaptic weights between the input layer and hidden layer, not hidden and output. That's why forget about k right now, but you cannot forget. The reason is that as I told you that you have to back propagate the errors over here. Now what are the errors that you will back propagate? Actually we have to back propagate all the errors, because these changes, I mean this output of this particular hidden neuron is responsible for errors in all the output in the output neuron, output unit. That means you have to backpropagate E1, E2, EM, all error. And that's why what I have written. So just for a time being, forget about the other neurons present in the hidden layer. So that's why I have kept the synaptic weights of their synaptic weights as inactivate. Just like, just what the synaptic weights between one hidden layer neuron and the output layer neurons is activated. Okay, so we will concentrate only one neuron of the hidden layer, and if you are able to understand that, I hope it will be pretty easy to realize what's happening for the other neurons, because the logic is same for all. So if we that mean this y responsible for creating the all error, that mean capital E, this one that we have just computed in my previous slide. Now if you want to find this del E del Yj, what is Yj? Yj is nothing but the output we have got from this hidden unit. So if you want to find out the derivative of error with respect to that Yj, we cannot compute directly. We cannot compute directly. Rather, what we can do, we can say, okay, I mean, we can write it as something like this. What does it mean? What I have written? It is again a chain rule of differentiation, because you see, if it is a given, if a problem is given to you something like this, for example, uh, del dx dt, uh, and if x is a function of, and if x is basically you can say 2, for example say 2 t square, then basically what you do, you first differentiate in this part, then you write a differentiation of this one, right? So I hope you can understand this. Maybe it's not a correct example that I have just written over here, but still with respect to differentiation, if you understand it clearly, then I hope this part is possible, easy to understand, that this is nothing but we are differentiating ek square. That's why these 2 and 2 gets nullified, half vanished, so ek left, and then we are keeping the derivative dek dyj, right? So basically what we have to do, we have to basically find out the expression of dek dyj. Now what is dek dyj? You see, dek means this one and yj means this one, output of the hidden unit. You cannot do it directly, but what you can do, you can compute dek dvk with respect to dvk, right, and then dvk with respect to dyj, because this vj, this vk, that means the the summation output of some input, some neuron is coming from many neuron output of the previous layer. That is just happening over here, dvk dyj mean, right? Now if you, that means we have to find out this part, these two things. So let's find out first dek dvk. You see, ek means dk minus yk, again k should be in the suffix, so I hope you can understand that. And you see what this yk means. Yk means actually phi of vk, right? So that means if you just find the derivative of error ek with respect to vk, it's nothing but dvk, or dvk of this one with and this one individually. Now this desired value is a constant, so it will become 0. So that's mean dek dk vk means minus of phi dash vk. Phi dash vk is what? Phi dash vk is the derivative of the sigmoid function. So you can easily say that it is nothing but minus phi vk into 1 minus phi vk. We have seen that in my previous classes and previous slide. Now, so dek dvk we have found this part, the first one. What about the second one? Let's see. dvk dyj. Let's try to realize it. Uh, okay. So you see, for the kth neuron of the output layer, for the kth neuron of the output layer, that is, say, for example, this one, the vk is equal to j equal to 1 to l wkj yj. That we have seen, right? Already we have seen this. Now you see, if we write here, if we want to compute this d of vk with respect to d of yj, what will happen? All the j will get vanished, will become 0. Only the yj and associated wkj will left, and obviously that yj will become 1 because we are derivating with respect to yj, so the wkj will left. So that means dvk dyj is nothing but the wkj. That is either, I mean, if we consider that dvk d, that means dvk dyj is nothing but the only one synaptic weights between the jth previous layer neuron with the kth new, I mean, output neuron, right? So that mean what actually we are trying to say. So we have this one, this situation. Now I have already got dek dvk means this one, and I have got dvk dyj means this wkj. So that means dy I mean d derivative of error with respect to derivative of, I mean, derivative of error with respect to dyj, that means jth neuron output of hidden layer is equal to summation over k equal to 1 to m, that means summation of all the output neurons, their error multiplied by the activation function, function derivative of that kth output in the kth neuron multiplied by wkj, that is this one or this one or this one. If you consider k is this one, then this one. If you consider k is this one, then wkj is this one. If you consider neuron is this one, then wkj is this one. So that means derivative of error with respect to yj is this whole thing, right? So we have got this. Now there is a very interesting observation present over here, that in previous slide we have seen that I can write this derivative of error with respect to output layer delta k as ek phi k into 1 minus phi k, phi vk into 1 minus phi of vk, right? Now we can see a similar situation is arised over here, right? That's why I can just write the same delta k over here, and this wkj is will be, obviously kj is will be in a suffix, so I hope you can understand this. This is a some mistake in my presentation. Anyway, so that means the derivative of error with respect to y, with respect to yj, that means jth output of the hidden unit, is equal to minus summation over k equal to 1 to m delta k, that means derivative of error with respect to kth output layer into the wkj, that is this one, derivative of error with respect to this output layer into this one, plus derivative of output with respect to derivative of error with respect to this output layer into this synaptic weight, something like this. So the summation of, for, I mean, this summation will be for all the outputs, because all the outputs are responsible, I mean, sorry, this particular output of this hidden layer is responsible for generating all the output, all the errors, output in all the I mean errors in all the output layer, all the output unit, right? That's why we have a summation something like this. Now, still it is not completed. The reason is that ultimately we have to find out, just like we have seen that we have got del wkj. In a similar way, basically we have to find out del wji. Then only my job will complete. It's not still done. So we have done up to this one. Now you see we have, let's come to this point, that computation of hidden layer derivative. So this is one neuron of the hidden layer, hidden unit, right? So this and that, I mean we can easily write this one. Uh, we have a lot of mistakes over here. I'm sorry for that. It should be, xi, and maybe I don't know. Yes, it should be wkj. Okay, so you see, you can easily understand this meaning of this one, right? Because this is vj, this is actually a neuron of the hidden layer. That's why instead of vk I have written vj, right? And now this is vj I j2 till jn, because these are the input layer neurons. We have just written in this way, right? Then according to that, yj will be equal to phi of vj, because it is an activation function. So now delta wji is actually should be just like, in place of, in the previous slide we have seen that delta wkj is proportional to the derivative of error with respect to del dwkj. In the same way, delta wji should be proportional to derivative of error with respect to dwji. That means basically we have to find out the expression of d derivative of error with respect to dwji, like this one. Now how you can do this? Again you can apply the chain rule. You can say that this one can be written as dedyj, that is jth output from the hidden layer, into dyj by dwji. Now dyj by dwji is not possible to compute directly, you can go via vj, right? So that's why I have again divided, I have segregated this dyj dwji as multiplication of dyj dvi and dvi dwji. So now finding dwj with respect to dwji become easier, because dyj dvj is nothing but the activation function derivative, right? And dvj dwji, this is coming from here. If you differentiate this expression, the left side, with dwji, for that particular dwji only xi will left, other will vanish because of constant value. So that's why this xi. So that means dyj dwji is, we have found. So this expression we have got. Now what about this one? You see, by the way, uh, just a minute. So that mean, okay. So that mean, okay. What does this del E del W Ji means? What does del E del W J mean? So we have got this one. Now what is the expression of del E del Yj? Do you have anything before that? Yes, daily del yj we have got, right? Daily del yj we have got this expression, right? So if you just multiply this expression over, keep this expression over here, it will become something like this. So this del yj del wji, this part, which will get multiplied with this expression, we'll get this one, right? Now this part is means what? This part means delta k, right? Among this one, this part means delta k. So let's, I mean, that means, that's why I have written delta k over here. I have not written the whole expression. I have written actually this expression. I mean, minus summation over k equal to 1 to m delta k wkj, that I have written. And the minus sign came in the first. Fine. Now in previous case we have found derivative of error with respect to output layer, because we were able to because we wanted to calculate delta wkj. Now we want to calculate delta wji. That means we have to find out derivative of error with respect to hidden layer, right? So if we want to find out derivative of error with respect to hidden layer, and if we write at it as delta j, then uh, we can easily write its negative of derivative of error with respect to Vj, because Vj is the responsible, I mean output for this. And this one I can, with the chain rule, I can differentiate, divide it into two part, right? Now you see this derivative of error with respect to dyj you have just found in previous slide, this one. And derivative of yj with respect to Vj, you have just calculated derivative yj with respect to vj, uh, will be what? Will be basically the function of the derivative of the activation function, right? Because vj is the output, and sorry, yj is the output and vj is the input of the function. That means basically y is basically function of activation function, function of vk, right? Sigmoid of vk. Yj means sorry, yj is sigmoid of vj, right? So that means derivative of the y with respect to derivative dvj means basically derivative of the activation function. So that's why I have written phi of vj into 1 minus phi of vj, a very simple expression we have seen. And in this side it's nothing but the expression of derivative of error with respect to yj that we have just seen over here. By the way, again, I mean, let's correct these mistakes. I mean, this part should be here, and similarly here also k should not present here, k should be present here, right? Wkj. Fine. So that means we have got delta wj in this way. Delta wj something like this. I'm sorry, delta j something like this. And this one, if you just write this delta j, the whole expression, over this expression, we will get derivative of error with respect to ji is equal to minus xi of xi into delta j. Now, why I am minimizing these expressions? Ultimately, they are representing the same thing. I am minimizing the expression just so that we can compute these derivatives step by step when we will implement it with, in a form of algorithm. Okay, so you see, just what we were discussing in the previous slide, that delta wji should be, proportional to the derivative of error with respect to dwji. And obviously in that case, the we will have a similar kind of equation, something like this we have seen, that is minus eta, because eta is the learning rate, same learning rate. Obviously, throughout the different layer the learning rate should be same, and this negative is because of we are going against the gradient. So that means as a whole delta wgi become eta into del j into xi. I is the, I should be in a subscript. Okay, don't don't be confused that I should be in the subscript. That means derivative delta wji, that means the sign, the change of the synaptic weight between ith output of ith input layer and jth hidden layer will be equal to the learning rate into derivative of error with respect to hidden layer into the input of the input layer, ith input layer, that is xi, right? Maybe x1 or x2, depends on what I is. Now see that we are saying that we are back propagating the error. Now how we are back propagating the error? You see, if you closely watch this delta j, the expression of this delta j as well as the expression of delta k, you see basically we are back propagating the error in a form of these deltas, because this delta is carrying, you saw within the delta j we have a delta k. If you have more hidden layers, we will have more. I mean, if I consider that I have hidden layer, I mean another hidden layer before the next hidden layer, second hidden layer, we have a first hidden layer. So that delta of that hidden layer will basically carry delta j. So that means indirectly it will carry delta k also. So that means we are propagating the error in a form of these deltas. So that means computing delta is going to be very vital, right? So that means now question is that, so I mean this is the point up to which, I mean we have already found what is the delta wkj and what should be the expression for delta wji, right? Right. But one thing we have lost, that is about the bias, right? But what we have seen, what we know about bias, we know that bias is basically, it's not an input, it's basically having a constant value plus one. Only the, the how much important the bias will be, that will be decided by the synaptic weights between the bias with the next layer of the neuron, right? Now see, if we include this bias in term theta, I mean say we are writing as theta, okay, bias weight I am representing as theta, not as w, so that you can differentiate between the weight of bias and weight of theta. Into the equation we will find that the derivative of output with respect to theta is always 1. Why? Because there is no change. Okay. Now you see that in case of delta wkj, in this situation, in the delta wkj is actually equal to my eta into delta k into yj. Now with respect to bias, since this yj is what, yj is the output of the previous layer, since it is delta I mean w, because it is where delta w between hidden to output, that's why this is representing output of hidden layer. This is delta w between input to hidden, that's why this is the input layer, right? So that means, now see, this bias is actually, with respect to bias, this yj and xi are 1, because bias value is always 1. That means in case of bias, the equation will almost remain same, only this will depend upon, the change of the bias depends upon only delta k and delta j respectively, depends on whether it is a bias of the output layer, sorry, bias of the hidden layer or bias of the input layer. Output layer cannot have any bias, remember, it's not possible, because output layer cannot have any bias. Bias doesn't produce any output. Bias just help to, to realize the function just like as a y equals to mx plus c as a constant value c, that c actually decides that what will be the position of the line with respect to x axis. In a similar way, the bias decides what will be the position with respect to the axis. That's all. That's why out bias doesn't have any, I mean, we will not we will not get anything from the bias. That's why bias can contain in input layer, can be all the hidden layers, but not in output layer. And that's why only for hidden and output layer we have this bias I have written in this way. So this is all about actually the backpropagation derivations of all these different terms. Now if you want to make them in a general form, in a form of writing an algorithm, this will be the steps. So what actually we have discussed till now is actually written in a algorithmic form over here. But what we will do, we will take a we will take a we will initialize the synaptic weights randomly first, obviously, and then run the network forward with input data. So that means, I mean, we have some input, we have all the features we will feed into the model, and with those random weights we will basically get the output. Fine. After getting the output, your job starts, the learning starts actually, because we have something desired in the output layer. We can easily calculate the error, and depends on that we can easily compute all the, all the equations basically that we have seen, just derived over there. That first thing is that we can calculate the del k for all the output layers, and if we are able to calculate that, we can now calculate can now calculate del j for delta j for all the hidden layers. Small delta j, actually small delta k, small delta j. As soon as it is possible, it will be done. It's now, your job is almost done. You will now able to compute that delta wkj and delta wji as well as theta k1 and theta j1. Why one I have written? Because we have only one bias. There is no, I mean, not more than one bias. That's why only one I have written. Okay. And as soon as we will able to, calculate this delta w, you can easily now update that weight with, I mean, whatever previous w we had, we will be added with this delta w, and we will find the new weight, and the new set of weight will be now used for computing the output of the next pattern. Okay, so that means one thing is sure, that after step number 6 we will actually go back to step number 2. We are not going to step number 1. Initialize cannot be done more than once. You know that. I hope you can understand that. But after 6 you will go back to 2. Now run the network forward with input data. Which input data? Next input data with the updated weight, obviously, and get the network output, and again you will calculate the error, and depends on that del k, del j, delta wkj, delta wji will get calculated, and automatically the the delta, I mean, the synaptic weights become much more optimized so that it can generate much more closer value to the desired that we have. So it's guaranteed that a time will come when the desired output and the network output will become very close, and that's the point when your algorithm will converge. Okay, so your loop will have some criteria. The criteria can be something like, until you are reaching to a threshold, your error is reaching to a threshold. For example, if the sum square error becomes 0.0005 or less than that, until you are not reaching that, you will continue with this training with various inputs, or maybe something different criteria you can keep. So it depends upon the programmer or the situation or the type of data that you are using. Okay, but in this way, the actually the backpropagation algorithm works. So we can stop the backpropagation algorithm over here. Then we can continue with an example that will understand that how this backpropagation algorithm helps to change the weight, cybernetic weight of the neural network.